Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having this forum. As you know, that we came united, and that's how we are, and that's our identity. Specifically in this district, District 24, where we're running this election. And as most of you know, I'm a Democratic district leader, and I'm also president of our Daniel Patrick Moynihan Democratic Club. And I was also a DNC delegate for Joe Biden and Harris. I'm serving this community for almost 30 years. Professionally, I'm a school psychologist and mental health counselor. I work throughout my life. I live in the same house where I'm sitting for 30 years, and I worked in this same community. My office for 24 years was on Jewel Avenue, and now it's on 164, 69. So I know, and I'm also a founder of International Ahimsa Foundation. So this is a non-profit organization which promotes non-violence and peace and harmony in communities. So I'm very glad that we all came together yesterday, and that's what we are. That should be our identity. That we have a mutual respect, we have a mutual understanding, and we have a mutual acceptance, and that's what we are, and that's what I'm going to promote. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Neeta. Who do you have next, Jeff?
The next person that we have is Dilip.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for hosting this event tonight. I also want to thank my president from John F. Kennedy Democratic Club, Jeff Kohn, and all of the leader, elected official. Tonight, we have yet another opportunity to present ourselves why we are running. I'm no stranger in this community. I came here at a tender age of 16, migrated from Bangladesh to the United States all alone. My parents sold mostly what he has to finance my trip to JFK. And from a very short trip on a Banwick expressway led me to where I am today. I have been living in the same community, same district for the last 30 plus years. I have raised two of my boys. They both went to the public school. I have my home here in the district. Immediately as soon as I came, immediately I got to work at the construction site, cleaning dishes, and eventually drove cab, put myself into colleges. After I graduated, I briefly worked in a private sector. For the last 20 years, I have been working in the public sector, providing leadership in the healthcare and higher education.
All right, Dilip.
All right, the next person is Deepti Sharma.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having the forum. And, before I start, yesterday was definitely upsetting, and we need to make sure that we stand up to both anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and any form of hate. We are a community that needs to come together and practice acknowledging who we are as individuals. My name is Deepti Sharma, and I'm running for city council because I genuinely want to make Queens better. I'm a mom of two and a lifelong resident of District 24. I grew up on 155th Street, right near Queens College. I went to 201, right up the block, where my son attends remotely now. I'm a small business owner. I'm an activist. And my daily struggles are the same as my neighbors, so I understand why they're awake at night, just like I am, worried about the world. I started a company called Food to Eat out of college to help restaurants that are immigrant, women, or minority run to use technology to grow their businesses, because I understood many of them felt overlooked and underserved. And to me, government means service. I pivoted my business during the pandemic to feed frontline workers and food insecure communities because I saw a lack of response from our city.
Right, that's 1 minute. Thank you, Deepti.
Next up is Soma Syed.
Good evening. Thank you so much for putting this together. I want to give a shout out to my club president, co-president, John Albert. Yesterday, and definitely what happened should not be happening in this diverse community of ours. I love Queens. I grew up right here in Jamaica on Wexford Terrace and Surrey Place. This has been my home. I went to IS 238, Jamaica High School, City College, then to Albany, and I came right back to start my practice. I'm currently the Queens County Women's Bar Association president. I condemn all kinds of hate, violence, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any kind of bigotry that is prevalent anywhere and everywhere in this world. because we cannot have any of this to have a community diverse as we have, and we need to stand up. And I am so thankful to Assembly Member Daniel Rosenthal to bring this to our attention and giving me an opportunity to stand up against hate and anti-Semitism.
Thank you.
And next, last but not least, Jim Gennaro.
Thank you very much. As former president of the Weapon Club, I'm very happy to be here and have all the clubs and be able to speak to all of you. I join with my fellow candidates in absolutely condemning hate in all forms, like we saw yesterday. As many people know, I was a councilman from 2002 to 2013. I chaired the Committee on Environmental Protection, passed 50 landmark laws that have had a dramatic impact on the health of the city and on the health of the borough. Clean air, clean water, and also was also able to deliver to all of the schools in the district, all of the critical facilities, particularly Queens Hospital Center, which is under my leadership was made the second most effective public hospital in the Northeast, next to Bellevue.
That's one.
Is that my bell? Am I over? Am I
You're over.
I'm over. Oh boy.
All right. Thanks, Jim. So let's get started with the questions. I will be asking the first question. Jeff already explained the format. Each Democratic Club will be asking one question, and all of you will have 1 minute to answer them, and the order will be randomly. So I will ask the first question for the Salt Water Democratic Club. Over the past 2 years, we've seen many cases of police brutality recorded. It is obvious that it is evident that change is needed in the police department in the way that we view criminal justice. At the same time, however, some feel that many of the police reforms may lead to a decrease in public safety. What reforms and changes would you like to see to the police department and to criminal justice? And how will you balance that with the concerns surrounding public safety? Let's start with Soma Syed.
So yes, I'm all for police reform and accountability. And we need to bring in the trust that has been lost between the community and the police. The police needs the resources so they can fight crime and keep the streets safe and clean. But the communities who have been facing issues, whether it would be stop and frisk or brutality, or if they are protesting, they have faced some sort of police action that was excessive, their concerns also need to be addressed. It's about putting the dialogue out there, having the communication between the police and the communities. It's my job as a council member will be to step in and breach that the big bridge that we have right now. So I need to step in, make the communication between the police, the prisons, and the communities that have been suffering. At the same time, I do advocate for a civilian complaint board that should be part of the district attorney's office. So there's somebody who's elected who can be answerable.
That's 1 minute. Thank you, Soma. Next up, we will have Jim Gennaro.
Yes, it's certainly. I think one of the biggest issues that has gotten kind of confused and is that people conflate, police defunding with police reform. They are two very, very different things. When I was on the council, we passed a suite of police reforms, and with the most recent reform bills at which the person's diaphragm cannot be restricted, the person's airflow cannot be restricted, people, making, recordings and making sure that we have, body cameras on, all the police. This is really what we need to make sure that there's a proper amount of daylight and accountability in all of policing. And one thing that I did when I was on the council, which I will continue to do in order to solve violent crimes, is to put more police cameras up so that to put those eyes in the sky to make sure that the police have all the tools and all the resources they need to bring violent criminals to justice.
That's a minute, Jim. Right. Next up, we have Deepti Sharma.
Yeah, so public safety is obviously really, really important, but we should think about shifting the burden from and the responsibility from the police, right? Not every single 911 call needs to be taken from the NYPD. A big story that I'm sure some of you may have heard me talking a lot about is a Queens College student who called 911 because he was having a panic attack. And instead of actually getting help, from a social worker or someone who was an expert in mental health, he had the cops come and handcuff him. So I think what the most important thing we can think about when we think about police reform is shifting that burden, making sure that we're, bringing in people that are properly trained and understand the issues and help our community become better and not constantly police everything and then reinvest in our systems. So I think that's been the most important thing for me.
All right. Thank you, Deepti. There's even 9 seconds to spare. Look at that.
Try to make a lot of time.
All right. Next, we have Neeta.
All right. So as we all know and notice that there's a mistrust is growing between community and NYPD. And that's why I don't like this word defunding, because we have to bring this trust back between the communities and NYPD. So we definitely need to reform our NYPD department. And for that, they definitely need a better training and they should be accountable for their actions. As Deepti just mentioned, the mental health thing is a very big issue. And I know personally, I have seen some of cases that NYPD officers are not aware of the situation, what the person is going through. So we definitely need to train them on basis of mental health, so they can identify right away when they approach anybody in community, and specifically they should have cultural diverse training also, because every culture has different measures of behavior. Like for example, like we close our eyes in front of, or bend our eyes down in front of our elders, right? So on the whole, they need better training.
Thank you, Neeta.
You're welcome.
And last but not least, we have Dilip.
Yes, so, some of my opponents in this race, they're advocating for defunding police. In these days, we do not need defunding police. We need to transforming the police department. We need more police to protect the middle class family and new immigrant community. What we have been seeing in some of the past leaders, they voted against, they voted for some of the racial profiling and stop and frisk. We need to stop and change those trends. And we need a criminal justice reform that's going to protect the middle class family, not the violent criminal. And most importantly, what we see that we spend about $400 million a year on the overtime and some of the waste, having those police officers at the court office. We can use tools and technology to save those money and reinvest in the community and train our police department so that they can be a better force and working with our community and be a strong force protecting middle class family.
All right, thanks, Dilip. And you even have 2 seconds to spare here. Look at that. And the next question will be asked by the John F. Kennedy Democratic Club. Jeff, you're up. Your housing question. Jeff,
you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Housing's a big topic in our district. It's a big topic everywhere. There's large co-ops in our district. Do you feel that the current property tax structure is unfair or fair? Explain why. But if it's not fair, what changes do you want to see happen to make co-op owners more equitable within the property tax code? And we'll start with Jim.
Yeah, I would say that that's a great question, because the way the property tax structure is now, as it has evolved over the last couple of years, a co-op or any kind of property in Queens versus Brooklyn is taxed at a much higher rate. So that really is we really have to walk that back, and that is like one of the key things that I want to do because that is a relatively recent phenomenon. And I think the other thing is to make sure that to the extent that we have affordable housing, we have to protect it. Now, in 2009, once the Electchester houses had lost their shelter tax exemption, which they had lost more than 10 years before, I got that back for them. So it was a $109 million tax abatement that that City Hall did not want to give. But I used the opportunity when the city wanted to re-up the Mitchell-Lama housing that was going to lose their 50-year tax exempt. I said, why don't we do Electchester too, even though Electchester is not Mitchell-Lama housing. I got that done, and Electchester will be affordable for the next 25 years because of me, and I'm very proud to have done that.
All right, thanks, Jim. So,
all right, next is Soma.
Wait! Before you go, Soma, I'd like to also recognize that Councilmember Barry Rudenchik has just joined the call, so I just wanted to recognize him. And also, since this question is a little bit more complex, I want to give 1 minute and 10 seconds to each candidate, just as I gave to Jim. Soma?
Thank you, Jamie, for being very fair.
Okay, Soma, you're up next.
Look, the property taxes since 2002 have gone up almost 18%. And this is partly under Jim's leadership when he was in the council. So what we're looking at is we have families who haven't been able to send their kids to school to pay for college. We have families who have not been able to save for retirement. So my pledge is to make sure we do not raise taxes on 1, 2, 3 owner-occupied homes in our district. We cannot afford it. We need to make sure our taxes are equitable. We cannot allow it. This is not helping our middle class, working class, struggling communities. And it's particularly evident by the pandemic, the stresses on families, the stresses on individuals and the parents and the homeowners and the co-op owners. We need to take care of them. We need to make sure we come together to stand for homeowners, to make sure taxes do not go up. And we need to stop the taxes rising. I talk to my voters all the time, and they say, Soma, taxes are so high, I don't know what to do. Do I pay for my tutor for my kids? Do I pay for my food? We need to stop this. We cannot put stress on our homeowners.
All right. Thank you, Soma.
All right, next up is Deepti Sharma.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. It's unfair. I think what's most important is we need to advocate for restructuring the increase and make sure that there are borough-specific, tax issues as opposed to making it same across the board, right? So you can't have what's happening in Brooklyn happening in Queens. We have to work with local co-op boards like Georgetown News. They're a big part of our district. Electchester, yes, of course. And then we need to shift the tax burden more on real estate developers with vacant buildings through a fine system. I think that's also really important that we relook at what's happening in property taxes in general. And lastly, work together for the betterment of working families. Like, we need to create more pathways to home ownership. I'm tired of having to pay for childcare and trying to pay for rent. Like, at the end of the day, I want to own a home. I want a place for my kids to live. And I'm actually experiencing this right now. So it's important that we restructure and we work together with community board members that understand what's going on directly in their community and not just solving problems that we think are happening.
Thank you. Next, Dilip.
So, co-ops and condo, they are they play an important role in our community. They are the middle class Queens family. And the way that we have been taxing the co-op and condo owner is simply unfair. They are taxing at a commercial renting apartment. And that needs to change. Look, for the last 10 years, not even the last 12 years, my taxes for the house had gone up 4 times. And imagine that senior that are living in a fixed income, what we are doing to them. So the idea is, even post-pandemic, we need to rethink how we increase the tax. And in fact, I'm proposing that we put a moratorium on increasing the property tax at least for next 2 years to give a breathing room for a middle class family.
All right, thank you, Dipti. Dilip.
All right, and last but not least on this question, Neeta.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff, for asking this question. We definitely have to reform the whole structure of taxing. Specifically, we need it now than ever because of this pandemic. How many people have suffered? How many people have lost their jobs? How many people have lost their businesses, income by all means? So we definitely have to reform this tax situation, and we have to amend it based on their SCS standard. And that's what we have to do. And we cannot generalize this definitely. We have to see the income bracket, and that's how we have to go, because this situation is definitely affecting more low income housing people, middle class people, and we have to take care of them. Otherwise, we are losing. I know personally a lot of people moved out from co-ops, and they even moved out of New York State altogether. They're moving to New Jersey. A lot of my friends who live in co-op here in my district or in Rego Park, they moved out to New Jersey. Why? Because they have less taxes and they have bigger houses. So we definitely have to work on it very closely. Thank you so much for asking this question.
Okay, so we concluded with that question. I believe the next question, Jamie, are you asking this one or am I?
No, Queens County Young Dems will be Mufassal. Is asking this.
Okay.
Just give me a moment. Yes, sir. So my question is that the city is under immense pressure from huge budget deficit. Programs and services may very well be affected. Tell us one service/program you'll fight to keep fully funded, and one program/service you would be comfortable with cutting from funding. I guess I'll have Dilip answer this question first.
So, everybody's talking about, we are in the biggest financial crisis. Yes, every crisis brings an opportunity. And I think this is our moment to build on infrastructure, our moment to build on things that we could not have done over the years, right? Now, what we have seen during the COVID, our school system are miserably failing. We're failing our children. We're failing our seniors. So I think it's time to invest on a school, building a solid infrastructure, to build additional hospital bed. So we have a far less hospital than any other borough in the city. In fact, under the previous administration, previous council member, one before, he actually, under his administration, we lost 2 hospitals. During the COVID, what we could have probably saved some of the people that.
I had nothing to do with that, Dilip. That was a state. Well, that was not me. Well, if you're going to be on here, tell the truth.
I am. Well, people knows that very well, and the point is, some of those lives could have been saved. Have we fight?
Why don't we make this a debate? It's like
I'm sorry. Listen, hey. This is not yelling at anybody. All right, just answer the question, Jim. You can rebut him in your minute. Okay, so.
Yeah, and let's stay away from attacking candidates.
So the point
is stick your position.
The point that I wanted to make is that we need to make investment on adding additional hospitals, building on the platform for the education, so we can provide the education that our children deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip, for the answer. Next up, I'll have Deepti answer the question.
Thank you. So for me, I would fight for fully funding the indirect cost rate to help nonprofits. This was initiated last fall. It's to help cover indirect costs exceeding 10% of a city contract for organizations retroactively. It's really critical that we think about nonprofits and the service that they provide to our community. I grew up right around Pomnock, went to which is now called Queens Community House, and they've been relying on projects like on this kind of funding. So for me, things like this are things that I would like to spend money on. And honestly, I don't think we should be cutting anything. I think we should be prioritizing and shifting budget.
Atta girl.
Yeah. And thinking about where, we need to make sure that we're funding everything so that our communities are flourishing. We can't take away from the arts. We can't take from enrichment from our schools. We can't take away our hospitals. What we need to do is shift budgets around and prioritize, because right now we're facing a pandemic and COVID relief is important. We need safe working environments. We need to make sure our workers are not being compromised. So the most important thing, let's not cut anything. Let's shift the budgets around. I've owned a business. I know if you look at my filing, it's the cleanest.
Thank you, Deepti.
Thank you, Deepti. That was amazing. Dr. Neeta Jain.
All right. So you asked two part of questions. So first question answer is that I want to make sure that our schools are fully funded. During this pandemic, I have seen firsthand that people are calling me from schools, from administration to students, parents, and principals are contacting me for so many different reasons. Our children do not have devices to have homeschooling online. They do not have Wi-Fi. So I have seen like so many disasters are going on during this pandemic in families, in school system. There's a big loophole also I found out, and I'm working on it very closely with the administration, which once I get into the office, I will definitely, unveil this whole thing. And the other thing that definitely we do not want to cut any budget. We definitely have to restructure the budget, and we need everything at this point. We need mental health. We need mental health care for everyone. We need health care for everyone. We need food. We need more social services for seniors. And so there's no room for cutting budget. And we definitely want, as I work with all the elected officials from federal to
All right. Thank you, Neeta.
and we need more budget from federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Soma Syed.
Thank you. Look, we need to look at the entire city budget and prioritize. Everything that we have in the budget is important, and we need them. And we also need to make sure we go after the federal government to give us the funding, because now we have an opportunity. We elected Democratic president and vice president. From whom we should be asking for money so we do not have to cut anything, because everything we have, it's important. Make sure we have clean street is important. Make sure our schools are open is important. Make sure we are taking care of our homeless people. Make sure the police is taken care of. We need to prioritize. We need to look at the entire budget, and we need to make proper decisions based on the needs of our communities and the city. And that's what I intend to do when I get to city council.
Thank you, Soma.
And next up is former council member James Gennaro.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the first thing that we all should be mentioning is that the mayor introduced his preliminary budget last week, and his first target is cutting education. That is in the preliminary budget already. This is what he wants to do. He has put a bullseye on the backs of schools, and this is an outrage. So this is his first resort of where he wants to cut, and so that is completely unacceptable. I do agree with Deepti and Neeta and Soma about the need to, why should we be talking about giving away services, and why can't we just prioritize? But I certainly should have a focus of what is in the mayor's crosshairs right now, which is education funding. It's in the preliminary budget that he announced last week. I keep track of this stuff. I've been on the council for a while, but I still make sure that I know what's going on, and we cannot let him do this. Now, of course, I've been through many, budgets, and I think have the budget acumen that will have the best chance of making sure that education funding, particularly in our area, is held intact.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
JFK Dems, you guys have an additional question?
Yeah, so this question is really for everybody, so equally go after it because I know where you're at. But DSA, the Democratic Social America, were in the news several months ago over a controversial questionnaire for their endorsement process. The first question is, did you fill one out and seek their endorsement? If you did, explain why, and if you did, will you also make it public? And if you did not, explain why you didn't seek their endorsement. So I'll start with Neeta.
Already, I did not look for it, first of all. I do not believe in the agenda they run, so I didn't do it. That's all.
Great.
Okay. Dilip?
No, I did not file the endorsement. I did not seek the endorsement. What they have asked to sign a pledge not to travel to Israel. I think that should be shunned. Is complete hate and is nothing but anti-Semitic.
Okay. Deepti?
I did not apply or seek the endorsement of the DSA. I'm a small business owner. I do not want to abolish capitalism. I am a small business owner. So let me say that out loud. Second, their question about Israel made me very uncomfortable because I was also supposed to, because of the pandemic, it was canceled, but I was supposed to lead a trip for entrepreneurs, a leadership trip for entrepreneurs in Israel this past summer, which got canceled due to the pandemic. So all of those questions were very uncomfortable for me.
Okay. Soma?
I did apply to DSA, but I had second thought about some of the positions they have taken. I am a capitalist. I love democracy. And so I'm happy that the endorsement process did not go far.
The other part is, did you actually fill out their questionnaire?
I did fill out. I do not believe that boycotting or specifically pointing out a country is a good policy to promote democracy or human rights or anything. And it should.
Okay. And would you make your questionnaire public?
I will think about that.
Okay. All right, Jim?
No, of course not. I am not a socialist. I've seen the socialist movie many times. It never ends well. I don't know why they bother printing history books because like no one seems to read them. So I don't know why anyone would be interested in the DSA endorsement and bringing socialism to New York City. It is only now that I'm finding out about this outrageous question that was in the questionnaire. I condemn that question, and I'll have nothing to do with the DSA.
I just want to say something more that, I did not know about this question also because I never applied. So, but all that India and Israel has very...
Neeta, you've already had your chance. Thank you.
Sorry for that.
The next question, Jamie, is from the Guy R. Brewer Democratic Club. Is there a representative to ask the question?
Not yet, so we'll put that question a little later. So the Daniel P. Moynihan Club. Tammy, are you asking this question or the other representative?
Anita Singh is asking the question.
Anita Singh, okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Anita Singh, and I'm a New York City public school teacher. As you know that this past year has been really hard on everyone, but it is even harder on our school children. Every day I see the children struggle to adapt. So my question is, what have you done so far to help with education and to help our children specifically during this pandemic?
We'll start with Dilip.
Yeah, so as you know that I was a former PTA president. I'm currently serving in the Community Education Council 26, and I have witnessed the challenge every day. Work with the superintendent, work with my colleague and the principal to make things easy at School District 26. But look, when we send our children at the early in the pandemic in last April, we have sent our children to make them feel alone. There are many children did not have the adequate technology or the tools to get the education. This mayor and chancellor further failing our children, cutting down the gifted and talented program and also taking away their specialized high school. The idea is to increase and invest on our future generation. We need more gifted and talented program and more specialized high school here in this borough. It is not fair that our children has to travel 3 to 5 hours to get a good education to go to Brooklyn, Manhattan, or Bronx, while 40% of the children come from the Queens.
Okay, thank you, Dilip. Jim?
Yeah, I just want to let people know that the reason why I was late to get here tonight because I was at a PTA meeting for MS 217. I try to get around to all the all of the PTAs and to stay close to the education community. When I again back when I was a council member, I made sure that every school was completely funded with all the learning technology they could possibly need. With regard to what has taken place during the pandemic, which is what the question is. I'm not in office at the moment, and so I'm going to rely on on my record of how I was a champion for schools and make sure that their budget needs were met in the school construction authority budget, and also what I could do as a local council member to give them learning technology, science labs. Computer labs, smart boards. I turned Thomas Edison from a high school that no one wanted to go to, which is an absolute jewel today, and I will continue that if elected.
Right. Thank you, Jim. Deepti?
Yeah, as a parent that's literally currently a part of the system, I understand the needs because I'm facing them myself, right? So there were times where I was in a remote classroom where there was a parent that you could hear that didn't know how to help their child because they weren't tech savvy, or they didn't have access to technology, or they didn't have good Wi-Fi. I think these are problems that have been happening for the past 10, 15, 20 years, and nobody's done anything about it. So as someone who's facing these issues, I feel like I've been put in a place where I can actually fight for those issues because I'm not only facing it myself, but I'm a part of the PTA currently, talking to parents about what their needs are on a regular basis. I don't have to be an elected official to be a part of the system and to help. I can, I've been mentoring for the past 20 years, making sure that I'm helping Lower East Side Girls Club, organizations like Pominock, making sure that the funding for those programs is not just homework help, but enrichment programs for students. I learned how to take Taekwondo, their gymnastics. All of these programs are a holistic part of what makes a child and a successful career for them. So it's important that we not just think about the basic necessities, but what else we can do for them.
Thank you, Deepti. Next, Neeta.
All right, so I will answer directly the question what Neeta asked. That of course I've been working with the community during this whole pandemic, and I've seen the very it's just so disturbing what I have seen in our school system. As I said previously as well, that in one family they have 4 children and they have only one iPad, and how disturbing it could be when you see this kind of thing, when your children are sharing an iPad and struggling with their homework, and the mothers are struggling because they are not computer savvy, they are not IT tech people, and these mothers are having so much problems. So I've been trying to give them support from outside of the school system, because our school system is failed, definitely failed during this pandemic, and we all know it. So I've been working and trying to help them firsthand. And I have a plan that's why I'm saying that we definitely need fully funding for our schools, so our kids can move forward and the families can move forward without any.
All right. Thank you. And finally, Soma, for this question.
Thank you. As a parent, I've been teaching 3 kids, 2 of our kids and my nephew, during this whole pandemic remote learning. So I know firsthand what the process is like for parents to get used to the remote learning. I have helped parents during the pandemic to apply for technology, iPads for their children because they don't have any. I know exactly what the needs are of this community. As a product of the public education system, that has allowed me to become an attorney, the president of the Queens County Women's Bar Association. I know how important libraries are because I used to spend every afternoon after high school in Jamaica High School. I used to walk right over to the Central Library and finish the entire Shakespeare sections and have conversation with the librarians there. So it's important programs like after school programs. It's important programs where kids are able to learn and understand that education is an integral part of their future. And that's what the investments should be. And this pandemic has also shown
Thank
us.
you, Soma.
Thank you.
Can you just finish your thoughts, Soma, because you were almost done, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. This pandemic has shown us that so many kids will be behind 3 months to 2 years in education, and we need to step up the resources for communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is going to be from the Eleanor Roosevelt Democratic Club, and I believe who's going to be asking this question?
John.
Yeah, it's
John.
going to be me. So, thanks. Dilip alluded to this, but I'm hoping that we can flesh out everybody's thoughts on this. As you know, the city is reorganizing admissions to the gifted and talented programs, and there's been a big push to eliminate the specialized high school entrance exam. So, one, what are your thoughts on it, and what's your position on eliminating the SHSAT? So we're going to start with, hold on, I wrote Neeta first.
All right. This is a very burning question at this time. From last 1 year, we've been talking about eliminating HSSAT, which I'm totally against of it because our kids need a motivation. Our kids need a competition. Without competition, they cannot learn. We know that. And it has to be healthy competition. We should provide more resources for the kids who do not have those kinds of resources to to learn more and to get up to that level where these HSSAT kids, when they get on top and get in these specialized high school. So we should actually provide more resources to all the schools kids so they can get up to that level, and we should have more specialized high school. We should make all schools like a specialized high schools. I would rather say, as a school psychologist, I know how frustrating it is for the parents also when their kids cannot go to this specialized high school, and it's not feasible for everybody because they are scattered in the whole city. So we should have more specialized high school instead of eliminating them, and so it will be a very healthy development for our children.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta. Next, Jim.
Soma?
Next,
Pardon?
let Jim go next, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Order?
I wish to be associated with the remarks of Neeta Jain. I thought she gave the perfect answer. I support everything she said, and I've had the history of actually doing that, as I made reference to with Thomas Edison High School. But so having already said that, but just for the sake of brevity, I wish to be associated with the remarks of Neeta Jain. I agree with her totally, and I am against getting rid of the exam. Thank you.
Thank you. Soma, next.
I support the specialized high school exam, and our son is actually getting ready to take it on January 28th. Number two, what do? The state owes us funds based on the 2003 case. We need to go after that fund and make sure the schools that are not doing well, that need the funding, we allocate them to bring them, every school in our district, all over New York City, to the same level. So children do not have to travel 2 hours, 3 hours each way to go to one of these schools. That's what we need to do. We need to make schools equitable, accessible, fully funded, so every child gets the same education. And that's what I'm here. That's what I stand for, and that's what I'm going to support when I get to City Council.
Thank you, Soma. Dilip?
So look, let's get some of the truth. My council member voted against the language access program. And where I was the PTA at Ryan Middle School, 70%, more than 70% of the children are immigrant. And in the borough, 51% of the people that live in this borough, that born outside of America. So it is important that we fund every school, and also we continuously fund the language access. And secondly, what mayor and chancellor is doing is a disgrace, is failing our children. To increase the diversity and inclusion, we need more gifted and talented in our district. And yes, we
Thank you,
need to
Dilip.
advocate to
I'm
build
sorry.
additional specialized high school here in the borough of Queens, because far too long we are getting short-sighted. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Deepti?
I went to Brooklyn Tech. I traveled 2 hours. I sit on the board of Brooklyn Tech right now. And it's one of the reasons why I went on the board, because I wanted to make sure that I was a part of the process of what happens with the SHSAT. I do agree that we should keep the SHSAT, but as someone who struggled with test taking, I want to make sure that there's also some supplemental along with it. I also want to make sure that we're thinking about how we have schools in the district that are good enough for our kids to go to. Why did I have to travel 2 hours just to get to Brooklyn Tech? I was on the math team, I was on the swim team, and I was spending 2 hours each way. So when was I going to come home and do my homework? I sit on the board because I want to make sure that we think about diversity and inclusion, and it's really important that we make the test more accessible, that we educate people. Language accessibility is essential. Not everyone's first language is English. Not every parent knows about the test. I went to school with kids who are third, fourth, fifth generation, and English is their first language, and they didn't even know that this test existed. So we need to make it more accessible. We need to make sure that we're actually training and giving the kids the help that they actually need to get into these schools. But besides that, we need schools like this in our district. I am tired of parents moving to Long Island because Long Island seems to have the best schools. No, New York City, every single school needs to be the best. That's it, period.
Thank you, Deepti. Okay, so now, I'm sorry, now we're going to go to a lightning round. There's maybe one or two more questions that we'll get to, but I want to break it up so that we can be a little bit more lighthearted. There's about a dozen questions. Most of them aren't serious, but they do require a response. So I'm going to start it off. I'm just going to go in
Jeff,
order.
I'm going to
rotating
read
back.
Garbour's question.
Can we do that after the lightning round? Can we just switch it up a little bit?
All right.
Okay, so this is for everybody. I'll call your name and you could just answer. Do you own a car, Jim?
Yes.
Soma?
Yes.
Deepti?
Yes.
Dilip?
Yes.
Neeta?
Yes.
Okay. Who's your favorite Mets player, Neeta?
Mets player. I'm not a fan of Mets. Sorry.
Are you Yankee? Are you a Yankees
I'm not
fan?
in a baseball. I'm in more basketball.
Oh, more about basketball. Okay, Dilip.
Oh man, everyone is favorite. Who do I name? My son is gonna kill me if I name the wrong one. And they're standing right next to me, so I need to be careful. You know what? I'll say I love Mets in general. I'm not gonna name the player.
Okay, Deepti.
If you're going to talk old school, Piazza, because I grew up with him.
Good answer. Okay, Soma.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. If you have one currently, you can name them.
Well, my favorite pitcher, DeGrom.
Okay, Soma.
I love the Mets, and I'm so happy with the new City Field. So go Mets.
Okay, Jim.
Doc Gooden.
Doc Gooden. Anybody on the current roster?
Yeah, I have to say DeGrom.
Okay. What is your favorite pizzeria in district?
Pardon?
Favorite pizzeria in district, Jim?
Oh, that would be Acquista Trattoria.
Okay, Soma.
Same thing, Cuesta Trattoria. I've been going there since it opened up for the last 17, 18 years. I love that
Jim
place.
Gennaro turned me on to that place. Way to go, Jim.
Deepti, your favorite pizzeria?
Gino's or Valentino's.
Okay, Dilip.
Gino's.
Napoleon. On 164.
Napoli?
Yes.
Okay. Neeta.
So I have two. I have Napoli. No, I have actually three. I have Napoli, Regina on Union and Utopia, and then 164 and 69, and then my favorite famous pizza, Belrose famous pizza on Main Street and Union.
Okay. Next one. Favorite halal spot in district. I'll start with Neeta.
I'm vegetarian,
Oh, okay.
so I
Dilip.
I'm also vegetarian, but I know my son goes to falafel place on 184 on Horsari.
Okay, Deepti.
Vegetarian, but I go to Halal Munchies for their falafel.
Okay, Soma.
I go to Midge for their goat biryani, so that's really, really good.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, I go down to Hillside Avenue and 168th, and there's a whole bunch, and I, go to town.
Okay. Favorite kosher spot in district, Jim.
Yeah, the favorite kosher spot, I would say Hapigsa.
Okay, Soma.
My favorite would be the falafel place that I like to go on Main Street.
There's several. Which one?
I'm forgetting the name because I haven't been there in it since the pandemic. But
Okay, Deepti.
Grill Point or Naomi's, and it depends on what's my mood for what kind of falafel.
Okay, Dilip.
Thai, Taste of Thai on 178 Union Turnpike.
Okay, Neeta.
Naomi falafel and then Benny's pizza on Union. Those are my
Okay.
ones.
Next question is, who did you initially support in the Democratic primary before you settled on the final person you voted for? Who did you initially support? Neeta.
I did not get your question.
Who did you initially support in the Democratic primary before you settled on the person that you voted for? Who is the first person that you were supporting before anybody dropped out?
For president, right?
For the president?
Yes, no,
the
for
presidential race.
Yes, for the presidential
That's
race.
what I wanted to know. So, of course, Biden. From the beginning.
Okay, Dilip.
Biden.
I'm his delegate.
Deepti.
Warren and Kamala Harris.
Soma.
I supported Bernard Sanders, then I supported Joe Biden.
Okay, Jim.
Biden.
Okay. Have you ever been to a 107th or 103rd precinct council meeting, Jim?
Of course. I was the council.
Soma.
I've been to the precincts for a number of clients, but for the council meeting, I have not.
Okay, Deepti.
I've been to a 107th housing meeting.
Okay, Dilip.
Almost last, 15 years I've been attending the community council meeting.
Okay, Neeta.
Yes, of course. I attend their meetings. I just had a talk with them today for something.
Okay, here's the next question. Listen carefully. Is there a civic association in your neighborhood? And if there is, which one, Jim?
The one in my neighborhood is the Jamaica Estates Association. I was the former president of that civic.
Soma.
It's the same one, Jamaica State Association.
Deepti.
The Flushing Suburban Civic Association.
Okay, Dilip.
Flushing Heights Civic.
Okay, Neeta.
Flushing Civic Association, which comes in my district leader district from.
Okay, this one I think we'll all have a laugh at. Are you a capitalist, Neeta?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Understood.
Oh, okay. I'll take that as a yes. Dilip.
I believe in a capitalism, yes.
Deepti.
Yes, I'm also a small business owner, so I'm proud.
Soma.
Yes, I'm also a small business owner having a small law practice.
Jim.
Yes, I come from a small business family. My father was a shopkeeper.
Okay, next question. Should we raise taxes on single-family homes to close budget deficits, Jim?
No, that is not the way to go.
Soma.
No, absolutely not.
Deepti.
No.
Dilip.
We should not increase any tax on 1 to 3 family.
Neeta.
No.
Okay, last one here. Who did you vote for president in 2020? Neeta.
Biden.
Dilip.
Biden, Harris.
Deepti.
Biden.
Soma.
Syed and Harris, and I'm so excited.
All right, Jim.
Bye, Naris.
Okay, so we've gone through our lightning round. I believe there's one outstanding question before we make final statements. Jamie, is the representative for the Guyra Brewer Democratic Club here to read
No,
their
they would like
question?
me to read it.
Okay, go ahead.
So their question, and after this we have a follow-up to Eleanor Roosevelt's question. But for Guyra Brewer, if elected, what will you do to ensure that your constituents receive up-to-date and correct information about COVID-19? And many people have not been able to get through online or via phone to make an appointment to get their vaccine. When it becomes available for all, what will you do to help your constituents gain access to appointment sites? Let's start with Neeta.
All right. So once I get in the office, I will make sure that all the constituents are fully informed through our office, via emails and via all the social media information, and they should have an access for all healthcare and all the information. And I will make sure that every single person in my district will get a vaccine whenever it is available. And I'm already, pushing for the vaccination in my district because I got a lot of calls from seniors who are very worried, and vaccinations are not available at this point. So I'm working with the health department and the mayor's office to get more vaccination for our district.
Thank you, Neeta. Dipti.
I think that we all want information to be up, but I think the way we do it is important, so we have to have a plan. I think a mobile initiative through partnerships with libraries, civic associations, working with colleges, making sure that that we're spreading information in all ways possible with local organizations. Obvious things, yes, we have to have email, we have to have newsletters, we have to have a good social media presence, we have to be innovative about the way we even use our digital presence. It can't be old school, it's got to have a new innovative take on it. Also, language accessibility. If we're going to talk about the health and the diversity of this district, because this district is not only English speaking, we have to make, and as we started this conversation with celebrating the diversity, we need to make sure language accessibility is essential, and that we provide all of this information in different languages, but also for our seniors. So making it mobile and making sure that we're following up with them, calling them, visiting them, and so that they know where to get vaccines, how to get them. Public safety is only important if we make it accessible.
Thank you, Dipti. Jim.
Yeah, the city council district office has to be a real clearinghouse for information. So the council district office is the hub. This is what I was able to do when I was on the council. And, as was just said, to work with local community groups, to work with the hospital, to work with the colleges, and to build those bridges. I was the one when I was making appointments to Queens Community Board 8, we have big institutions in this district that are not part of the community board. And so I wanted St. John's to have a representative on the community board. I wanted Queens College to have a representative on the community board. The whole idea is have the council district office as the hub, and certainly use all the high-tech methods, but there are many people, there's a big digital divide, and sometimes we have to just do plain old-fashioned phone calls to make sure that people know where to get the vaccine.
Thank you, Jim. Let's go with Soma.
We have to have a holistic approach and every available resources, community organizations, schools, community boards, local nonprofits, and all the local elected officials have to get together and work together and make sure we can disseminate information every way possible. Some people are only accessible by phone. Some are good in email, Facebook. Some we need to visit. We need to have, just like we had antibodies, mobile trucks for COVID testing. We also need to initiate for vaccine. And most importantly, we need to make sure this vaccine is available. And language accessibility, especially in District 24, where so many languages are spoken. There's language understanding issues. We need to make sure we translate all of this information into all of the languages that we have in our district. We need to take a wholesome approach and use every available resource we have to make sure every single person in our district is vaccinated, not just one dose, both doses.
Thank you, Soma. Dilip.
So first and foremost, there are lots of information, but how do we access those information? Today broadband is not cheap. It is very expensive. Many people simply cannot afford good internet broadband access. So we need to make this affordable. And in fact, for the low income family, we need to make broadband access absolutely free. So they get easy access to all the information. Secondly, we need to make vaccine available to all across, to your worship place, to the drugstore, you name it. And also not only giving them the vaccine, but also as a follow-up, we need to make available telemedicine and telehealth. So during this COVID and even post-COVID, we need to think of a new norm. New norm would be not pushing the patient, but also pushing the information. And to do that, we need to build a platform where we can get easy access to the healthcare sitting directly from your home. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dilip. All right, there's one follow-up asked by our president to the Eleanor Roosevelt question. What are your thoughts on mayoral control of New York City public schools? Let's start with you, Dilip, since education.
So, I'm very much troubled and disturbed by the mayoral control. Some of the decisions the mayor has done during the pandemic is a disaster, and I think that needs to change. So, and I would advocate, which I already proposed in my council, that there needs to be a task force with the mayor that controls the public school, not just mayor alone, because that has not worked so well for our parents and our children.
Thank you. Jim?
I've got a lot of problems with the de Blasio administration's approach to mayoral control of the school. I mean, they know what they want to do, and they do what works for them, and they're good at dictating what they want, like the kids and parents to do. But they're not very good at listening and engaging and involving. And this is kind of like a pattern, within the de Blasio administration. So I have a lot of problems with this incarnation of mayoral control, but I am for mayoral control because the old Board of Ed system didn't work. But because that was very inefficient, and with mayoral control mayoral control, I think that is the way to go. But the way it's being done now is unacceptable. Fortunately, we'll have a new mayor soon enough, and we'll have to forge a better paradigm for how the mayors for how the mayor and the Department of Ed run the schools.
Thanks, Jim. Deepti?
Yeah, I mean, I really, really do not like what's been happening, and it's been super frustrating as a parent who's dealing with the constant back and forth between a chancellor and a mayor and the multiple organizations that seem to have, some say. But I think we need to listen to our community. We need to make sure that we're having them a part of the process. We need to make sure that we're listening to our principals and we're listening to our superintendents, because every school district is different than the next. The resources each one of them has is really different. And the way the DOE spends money needs to be looked at, right? Everyone says we want to fully fund our schools. There's a good chunk of money there. What we need to do is, like someone like me who's actually owned a business, who understands how to manage money and actually budget and prioritize, that's what we need to do. Why is the DOE spending all this money in just the most random places? Has anyone actually looked at where the money comes from and where it goes? And I think those are things that are really important. So we need to involve people locally as a part of the process, because every system in every district is different.
Thanks, Deepti. Neeta?
All right. So whatever this mayor is doing during this pandemic, it's just horrified. Okay. And I'm definitely not in favor of mayoral control on our school system. The school system should be controlled by the three stakeholders: And those are students, their parents, families, and superintendent and administrations. When because this is a mayor's decision is affecting only these three people, and if they are on the board and they are on the same page, our school system will be definitely better than whatever is happening right now. So I'm definitely in not in favor of mayoral control.
Thanks, Neeta. Soma.
So it's been very disappointing to watch the mayor and his councilor Carranza coming from all the way from Texas to oversee our students of 1.1 million here and not being able to even properly navigate what needs to be done during the pandemic. And as a parent, that was very stressful. So I do have issues with that, that the mayor having all the control and the parents and the students and the communities are suffering. So what we have is the education council districts. I think more discussion has to be made. What is the appropriate amount of allocation of power between the mayor and the education council and every other stakeholder? More needs to be talked about, more needs to be discussed, and make sure that our students, our children are not shortchanged. And that's what has been. Our children have been shortchanged in this process. And I am very disappointed and very aggravated by what I've seen and still our children are going through.
Thank you, Soma. Would the Stevenson Democratic Club like to ask one last question?
We're okay, thank you.
Okay. So I want to thank everybody for their time who came, especially the candidates. We're not obviously going to leave without a final statement, so you'll have a minute. But again, I think tonight was very informative. We got to hear people's different viewpoints. And most importantly, most of you showed up. Some of them didn't. So that's that. With that being said, I'd like for you to make your last pitched effort in a minute regarding why we should rank you first. For the first ever ranked choice voting in the city of New York. That'll be voting on February 2nd. So I will start with Jim.
Yeah, I think it's critically important to elect someone who has a very in-depth knowledge of how the council actually works and the powers that it actually has. I see David Weprin on the call, and he's former chair of the Finance Committee, and he better than anyone else knows the relatively limited budget powers that the council has with regard to the preliminary budget and the executive budget and the final negotiated budget. So because there is not a tremendous impact that the council can have in terms of broad sweeping changes, unless it wants to pass its own budget, which is never a good idea, you need someone who's a real budget expert who can go to City Hall and to make the most of the power that is part of the council. Also, my progressive environmental agenda to reduce greenhouse gases, which also reduces local pollutants. I'm the one that passed the greenhouse gas reduction law, and the mayor has not moved forward with the financing mechanisms that is going to allow buildings to make the investments for them to be cleaner. Most of the pollutants come from buildings. And so I have some unfinished business with regard to my environmental agenda and also with regard to what I want to deliver for this district. And I have the experience and the acumen to do it. Thank you very much for this great forum.
All right, thanks, Jim. I also want to recognize, Jeff, I also want to recognize that the Deputy Borough President, Rhonda Binda, is on the call. Would you like to say a few words before we move on with the closing statements?
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone. This is such a great conversation. Thank you, Mr. Weprin. I'm just so excited. The future is bright for District 24. Thanks so much.
Right. Thanks, Rhonda.
Okay, next, Soma, your closing statement.
Our district needs someone who has the leadership. The leadership of the past should not be the leadership of the future. We need someone who has experience in the business side, in the community side, and in the legal side as well. And being in City Hall, meaning working for everyone in our District 24. We need to make sure our streets are safe. We need to make sure our streets are clean. We cannot have hate, bigotry, or any kind of violence in our community, whether it be anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or anything. And we need to make sure our small businesses have the resources they need so they stay in our communities. I have that leadership. I've been leading as the president of the Queens County Women's Bar Association, as the chairperson of the New York State Bar Association of Lawyer Referral and Information Service, as the founding and senior VP of Community Alliance Group. I love this community. This is where I grew up. And I know from Hillside Avenue to Horace Harding Expressway, from Van Wyck to 188th Street, every community and every cuisine, I am the first choice because of my experience and my leadership. And this is about the future, not the past. So vote me for number one and rank me as number one. Thank you.
Thank you, Soma. Next up, Deepti.
Thank you. I live by one simple principle: you can't be what you can't see. As a young woman of color, a working mom, and the child of immigrants, I don't see elected leaders in my district who identify with those labels. I face the same obstacles my parents did 30 years ago, the same exact problems. Working families are facing those challenges too, and even more because we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I'm running to fight for the needs of working parents because I'm actually one of those. I'm running to end gender and racial discrimination because I've faced it most of my life. I'm running to improve the economic opportunities for everyone in our district and immigrants because I'm the daughter of immigrants. And I'm running to help small businesses who have failed in this pandemic because I'm actually a small business owner. We want to talk about budget. I've built two successful businesses that have been recognized by Forbes, recognized by the Wall Street Journal. Why? Because they have been successful at bringing to the bottom line of our businesses to help them actually grow and scale and bring them opportunities that they never had. So when we think about what city council needs, budget is really essential and important. And I know how to do that because I've done it twice in both of my businesses. And it's time we put a mom in this district. It's time that we put a small business owner who's going to fight like hell for every single person in every single community in this district.
Thank you, Deepti. Dilip?
So again, my name is Dilip Nath. I'm a financial expert, organizer, technologist, and innovator. I have, in my tenure, I have managed a multi-million-dollar budget during the crisis time also, and put a new program and initiative very successfully. Diversity Council has recognized me one of the 50 top leaders when it comes to technology and innovation and managing money. So I have the experience. I bring a different kind of leadership. I bring a 21st century leadership. What we have seen during the COVID, it exposed some of the deadly flaws in our city. Too many of our neighbors lost their loved one, lost their job, and we are going to lose more jobs. So we need a leadership who can turn this around, who can create job strengthening our small business. So I'm asking you to use your voice on February 2nd, so I can use your voice as your council member so that we can rebuild this city together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. And finally, Neeta.
All right. Thank you so much for having this wonderful forum, first of all. As you know, my name is Dr. Neeta Jain. I'm the one who puts our communities first. I have a long history of bringing different communities together to get things done. Professionally, I am a mental health counselor. I have a PhD in psychology, and what our communities are going through this pandemic, I understand fully. And you need a council member who understands this background, who understands this need, who understands this disaster, whatever our families are going through right now. And it will take a long time to get back in normal phase, okay? And that's the background I have, and I will use to serve our community as I'm doing it during this whole pandemic. For me, mental health is more important than physical health. You can take a Tylenol and your headache is gone. But once you are suffered with mental health, it takes forever. And we need a council person who understands this situation, who can serve all the ages from children to adults and the seniors, which I'm doing. I'm on board of India Home for forever. I'm their senior. I'm their chair for advisory board, serving their seniors at their and at other self-help center in my other part of district leader. So I know that I will deliver I will make sure that our schools are fully funded, our communities are safe, our students are fully equipped, and our
Thank you, Neeta.
small businesses come back on their feet. Thank you so much for having me and choose me as your first choice.
Thank you, Nita. And to all the candidates, thank you for showing up. Thank you for talking about your platforms and what you plan to do and being civil and all that you've contributed tonight. I want to thank all the Democratic clubs for getting together. It's not that it was very hard to put this together, but it took time and wanted to make sure that it was put together well. And to all the district leaders, the elected officials that were on the call, thank you for what you do. And I'll close out by saying I appreciate everyone for giving me the time to moderate this, and I will turn it over to Jamie Causey for his closing statements.
Right. Again, just as Jeff said, thank you to all the Democratic clubs for helping us put all this together. Thank you for all the candidates for showing up. Thank you for all of your thoughtful answers. I think we've had, I believe, at one point 90 something people on this call, so this was very informative. And let's all remember to get out there and vote on February 2nd.
Yep.